This is Answer Me That on Storm FM, sponsored by Bar Uno.
Hello and welcome to Answer Me That on Storm FM. This week coming up, what is trypophobia? I'm in love with my ex, what should I do? Can we make a couple if I'm the rebound guy? How do you define consent? What's wrong with selfies? And why should I use encrypted apps and what for? This is all coming up in the next hour or so and much, much more. If you have any questions or if you want to get involved, don't forget you can get in contact. This week we're going to be asking you to answer the question, I'm in love with my ex, what should I do? We'll try and save that for the last one.
This is Answer Me That on Storm FM. Send your questions to studio@stormfm.com, facebook.com/stormamt, or text STORM plus your message to 60300. Text charged at your standard network rate.
So our first question up today is, what is trypophobia? And this is one which is quite disturbing if you look on Google Images, because there's all sorts of holes in different people's parts of their bodies, including their eyes, and it's really weird and disturbing. But it's actually part of a list on the Daily Dot. If you look on there, there's a list of things you can send to your enemy, and this includes snow, bugs, a cardboard penis for some reason, excrement, a ball, a brick, coconut, and the fear of holes itself. And you can send them nothing at all as well. There's actually a website where you pay money to send your enemy nothing, which seems quite a good business proposition because they don't have to deliver a product and you're paying out for nothing. Maybe something you could consider setting up in your spare time. The next question we're going to do now is, how do you define consent? This is one which has been a hot topic for God knows how long. But I found an article or come across a blog post not long ago, and it amused me, so I thought I'd share it with you. It was written by someone who uses the username Rockstar Dinosaur Pirate Princess, which is pretty out there itself. But it basically compares consent to a cup of tea. So it's saying that if you offer someone a cup of tea and they're like all up for it, and yes, I'd love a cup of tea, then you know they want a cup of tea. And if they say, I'm not sure, then if you make it, it's your own fault if they don't drink it. And the next one they've got is saying, if someone's unconscious or completely drunk, then you don't go pouring it down their throat. Which is a weird metaphor, but you kind of get the idea. It's you can't force it on someone. If someone consents, they have to be wholeheartedly in it. So yeah, that's one which has been debated quite a lot recently in blog posts and on newspapers and God knows what as well, especially with the feminist movement on about it. Well, I say feminist movement, it's people who are actually egalitarians, because the feminist movement seems to be more feminazis these days, where they hate men. But that's my own opinion for you, and that's the way a lot of people see it if you go around the internet. There are people who call themselves feminists and do good, but yeah, you're egalitarians, you're just using the wrong word.
This is Answer Me That on Storm FM. Send your questions to studio@stormfm.com, facebook.com/stormamt, or text STORM plus your message to 60300.
We've had a question in during the break asking why some people like Marmite and why some don't. The reason for this is some people are fussy buggers, but the main reason is the way your body's been trained. So you start building your likes and dislikes from the time you're in the womb. Certain foods such as garlic, vanilla, and things like that have been shown to enter the womb through the amniotic fluid, giving the baby a preference for certain foods after birth. Some of it is linked to genes, apparently, so certain families will like certain kinds of foods, and when you start growing up, you eat certain foods, so you tend to like them more. That's the main reasons, which I found from a quick search. It's because you were trained to like it, and if you did actually eat Marmite on a regular basis, you could probably train your body to like it yourself. So, yeah, there's another little bit in here which says that the reason people eat things like greasy cooked breakfast with a cup of tea is to try and balance out the flavours, and it apparently gives you a more clean feeling after you've had it, and it doesn't leave you feeling as bloated. So that could be a reason for why you like Marmite as well, to balance out the things you're eating it with, potentially. So, yeah. So the next question we've got is, what's so wrong with selfies? Now, a few days ago, I actually found a story with someone who took a selfie with their girlfriend. They were doing it on a train track without permission, and they didn't hear a train come in the other direction from behind them. It killed the boyfriend and seriously injured the girlfriend. So that's one reason why selfies are so bad, because it distracts your attention so much. It can be especially dangerous depending on where you're doing it. Another reason is quite a big one, and it's one of the problems with social media you get sometimes as well, which is overshare. You don't need to document every moment of your life. We don't need to know on Facebook when you've used the bathroom or every time you do something new with your hair. Oversharing is a big problem, and it's getting so much easier to do with things like Snapchat, where people are taking photos like, oh, this will only last a couple of seconds, or this will be funny, when it's the same thing you've sent 20 different times. And when people are taking selfies, they're usually photoshopped, and there's been big stories lately with images being photoshopped, and people like the Kardashians, everything on their social media pages is photoshopped to the hilt, and I'm not being funny, it's not surprising. So what's the point in doing selfies if it's not a true representation anyway? And basically it's mainly to either try and make a poorly made joke, or to show off when you're doing something, or because you're bored and you want everyone else to be just as bored as you. But yeah, there are many problems with selfies, including it can be very dangerous depending on where you are. You should be concentrating on other things most of the time, especially if you're driving or using heavy machinery. Or if you are stood on a train track without permission, you shouldn't be there in the first place, let alone taking selfies because the train looks pretty. So, yeah. Makes me sound like an old man, but there you go. I just don't get the whole thing with selfies and stuff like that. It's a whole waste of time. So next up, we're going to be discussing using encrypted apps. The point of these is so that only you and the person you're sending them to can actually see these images. The big thing with encrypted apps started really when Edward Snowden started leaking that the government's listening to everything, and if you had any sense, you'd know that most of your unencrypted things are being listened to anyway. Most email providers will look at what's going through your emails to send you targeted advertising. It's just the way of the world. It's not an actual person looking at it most of the time. It's a computerized system, so people are worrying for no reason at all. But basically, the reason for these encrypted apps is so that you can talk to people without the fear of other people listening in. And that is something a lot of people are worried about. So Apple CEO Tim Cook recently said none of us should accept that government or a company, or anybody for that matter, should have access to all of our private information. This is a basic human right. And after saying that, when you think about Facebook, Twitter, things like that, Instagram, a lot of them do require your personal information at some point, even if it's just to set up an account. Facebook, for a start, if you wanted to change some details like your name, they require you to email them or fax them a copy of the legal document saying you've changed your name. If you change it, I think it's more than 3 times in a year. And there's other things like that. With any Google account, if you've lost control of it and you want to say, this is mine, give it back, you have to send them a birth certificate or something saying that it's actually yours and who you are, and basically prove your identity to them. So if you've made up a random account to get all your spam email sent to, you're basically up a creek without a paddle if you've lost your password or someone hacks you. So one of these ones which people are suggesting you install if you're on iOS, so that's iPhone, tablets, iPads, and things like that, is an app called Signal. This lets you use VoIP, so voice over IP, so calling through the internet basically, and texting using using a certain encryption method, and uses a ZRTP protocol, which is developed by an encrypted email system. So it's one of the most secure ways you can talk to people if you're on iOS or something like that. As for Android, Edward Snowden suggests that you use programs like Redphone and TextSecure, which are similar things which were developed. They basically encrypt your data end to end, so it's a secure connection and you don't have to worry about other people looking in on it. They're the ones which people suggest you use, and the main reason is people being worried about other people looking in, and especially with government these days, a lot of people, to put it bluntly, want to stick two fingers up, because in America specifically, there are a lot of bills they've been trying to pass the past few weeks, or past few months even, to try and say, we can access any of your data, we can do what you want with it, we're allowed to spy on you, is for the greater good. And thinking about it, we all know how that turned up on Hot Fuzz, so there you go. There's recently been efforts to block a US cybersecurity bill that the Senate Intelligence Committee have sent through. As I said, basically trying to say we can look at all your stuff. So there was one a few years ago as well where they wanted to be able to take down anything from the internet. So a lot of websites, including Wikipedia, blanked out their websites for the entire day so you couldn't see anything. So there is a lot of controversy around stuff like that. And with the government not actually understanding what encryption is, and that when you're saying you're going to pop to the shops or something, they really don't need to listen in on stuff like that. So it's basically a way to annoy other people, and so you know your stuff's secure if you are saying something sensitive or things like that. But generally, if you're doing any sensitive kind of work, you should keep it to written communication, which you know can be destroyed and you can burn it or whatever. Because whatever you do on a computer and things, there's usually a digital footprint left behind, and although the normal person may not be able to find it, there are people out there who can. So be careful what you're doing online and what kinds of things you send in, especially with certain types of selfies which have gone around on Snapchat, which have caused a lot of controversy over the last few years or since its launch. And stay safe on the internet.
You're listening to Answer Me That on Storm FM. Don't forget to send your questions to facebook.com/StormAMT.
So our next question up is, can we make it as a couple when I'm the rebound guy? And to be honest, I don't think this needed our listeners to get in contact with us for, because if you're in a good relationship, it doesn't matter when you got into it or who was the last person in it. If it's a good relationship, it's a good relationship, whether you're the rebound guy or whether they've been single forever or for months on end. It really doesn't matter. So yeah, if you're the rebound guy, yeah, you can make it as a couple, as long as you're both in it and you both have a good commitment. And statistically, being of a similar age recently has come up for some reason on certain websites, is making it more likely for you to stay together longer, being of the same age, being of a similar temperament, and having similar ideas in your head. And basically being alike. But then again, there are people who are polar opposites who tend to attract, and they make great couples, and the fact that they can contradict each other and balance one another out is